The following episode is part of a series produced in conjunction with the 14th Shanghai Biennial titled Cosmos Cinema.
Hello, my name is Hallie Ayers. I was on the curatorial team for the 14th Shanghai Biennale, which is called Cosmos Cinema. And today I'm thrilled to be joined by Thotti. Hello, Thotti.
Hello, Haley.
Thotti is an artist from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and he's currently based in New York. His work is situated at the frontier between trance and nothingness, the image and its oblivion, motion and remembrance, cinema and its expansion, or, as Thotti puts it, the South Atlantic dissolved in the world's skies. For the Shanghai Biennale, Thotti produced a work titled Mo, Crossing to the End and the Beginning Again, which was a collaboration with the photographer Bruno Sorrentino Jansen.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. And the animator Max Goodman. Viewers encountered the installation within a chapter of the exhibition that we titled Solar Assembly Line, and this chapter in the exhibition posits that life's reliance on the sun is the most vivid demonstration of our entanglement in cosmic phenomena. The constellation of works in the section of this show consider how our economic, financial, and political systems have been shaped by our connection to celestial bodies. Our agricultures rely upon readings of the stars. Western harmonic systems are pegged to the movement of the planets. The calendrical rhythm of our lives is marked out by the Earth's orbit through the solar system, etc. So while the sun might historically have been a symbol of vertical authority, it's also the instigator of change. And most of the works in this chapter, Solar Assembly Line, also imagine the sun, the moon, and the planets not as eternal guarantors of world order, but as sites of resistance and sources of emancipatory dynamism capable of inspiring and powering dreams of freedom. So Totti's work in this section takes the form of a large spiral composed of wooden stakes connected by fishing wire, onto which the artist has affixed large facsimiles of leaves, each of which is printed with an image sourced from Totti's research into indigenous cosmologies of the Amazon that have informed the installation. Viewers to the Biennale were invited to enter the spiral, where at the center they encounter a hammock filled with dirt, water, a simulacrum of fire, and chromatic inks. So, Thotti, would you mind just speaking a bit more about the installation itself, the research into the cosmologies that are foundational to the work, and then also this decision to structure the installation as a spiral and what the spiral might implicate in terms of how the work navigates alternative temporalities?
It's a heavy metal introduction. I'll try to make justice to it while not rambling too much. But, well, for me, of course, there is this huge research and attempt to be in relationship and communication with the whole concept of cosmos in Latin America, going from indigenous cosmologies all the way to popular Christianity, and a lot of different things that become part of this installation and become glued in it and kind of spiral together with it. But for me, in a way, we tend to think very much about all these cosmologies or sacred things in a very type of isolated background, a type of exotic form of thinking about them, as they were not part of our world, of modernity, of technology, of how we relate to things right now. So for me, really, everything kind of clicked in a way, not so much when I was, reading or searching or even listening to these very old forms of understanding the world or forming the world or even making sense of things. But, there was this point where I was in this very, very isolated indigenous village in the Kwikura people in Xinhu in Brazil. And it was really the middle of the night, around 11 o'clock or something. And I never seen nothing as dark as that village. You could only really see the skies because it was really, really isolated. I took like 20-hour buses to get there. And they were all watching a soccer game in a television. And it was the only television they had in the entire village. And all of them would support a single team that was from my city, a team that I don't like at all. And they were all together there. And one of them, the team, it's losing the soccer game. And he stands up and starts playing with the television as it was a drum. And I got very astonished by it and asked what he was doing, which, is always complicated because you don't want to interrupt too much or even ask people too much about, their behavior. But then he tells me that, he's trying to communicate with the ball, so the ball goes to the other way. And, that's something you actually do in your life, when you're relating to things or to technology, even if you don't see it in this way. So for me, the most important thing was not so much even, representing certain cosmologies or certain ideas, even if I was trying to, use them in a way or make justice to them and integrate them to the spiral. But for me, the most important and fundamental thing was this notion of a permanent cosmogony, this notion that everything is beginning in this moment of participation, in participation with the objects, with the world, and that we share this form of invention. And I think the spiral came from there fundamentally, even if the spiral has, a very large history, even if the spiral is related very intimately with all these cosmologies in a way. But for me, what was not important was not this, footnote research. Oh, this comes from here, this comes from there. Because I don't think that's the point of an artwork. For me, the point of this artwork was making this frontier of times, of participations through the spiral. Because if you look at it, we're constantly intertwined by two very fundamental notions of time and two very fundamental notions of life. Now, a cyclical one, which is of the universe, of cosmos, of culture, where things begin and end and continue. So you have this on seasons, you have that on harvesting and planting and all of that. So you have this accumulation of time, but you also have your own time, which is irreplaceable and irretrievable. And that doesn't begin or end. That is only a line. So you have this coexistence between the cycle of culture and nature and your own line, your own life, which has a beginning and an end. So the spiral, in a way, by having this intercalation or this intertwining between lines and circles, between what is irreplaceable and in the very unique with what is repetitive and circular, it gives a possibility of them coexisting in this shared invention of participating, of being, of touching, of actually being at this frontier. So for me, in a fundamental way, the spiral was about that, about making a frontier of these times, of modernity and different forms of cosmology in a permanent cosmogony of invention.
Yeah, and I want to ask also because, so the biennial was in Shanghai, obviously, and you had found this reference in the character of Mo, and this is the connection between the cosmologies that you were researching, but also Chinese cosmologies, and Mo ended up lending its name to the title of the work. So could you speak a bit more about that character of Mo and the connection between those cosmologies?
Yeah, so Mo is quite a very interesting case in the history of weird translations and cultural confusions, because it comes from this problem in sinology in the 19th century, where when they were trying to classify Chinese animals and putting them names and trying to do translation, one of them, a French one, actually completely misunderstood what Mo was. Mo used to mean giant panda, But because of Chinese poetry, especially a very famous Chinese poetry, I believe, on the 7th century, Bajri, I will not pronounce it right now, but he would start thinking of this word mole as this animal made of parts of other animals, and he started to sleep with paint. He asked painters to paint paintings of this animal made of parts of other animals to sleep with them, and he thought it would heal his body. So it kind of became this huge collage of something that used to mean giant panda, and it became so culturally widespread that people actually didn't understood it anymore as giant panda. So when this sinologist in the 19th century actually went to say what mole meant, what animal was that, he said it was the tapir, which was inaccurately because there was no tapir in China at this point. But the tapir is a very weird looking animal, so it kind of looked as it was made of all the other animals, and just messing them up. But what for me was very important and very interesting, even if it's it's a case of something that a mistranslation, a confusion generated, is this possibility of something that is a cultural and artificial invention becoming reality. Actually, turning language, turning fundamental communication into something different. So something is completely resignified by how people would actually transform this word and transforms factual reality. And this goes very, very straight to something that for me was really how everything started, which was this relationship that I think Chinese art and cosmology share with Brazil and Latin America in some way, which is this relationship with the body itself, So this body of an invention. So you see, he sleeps with the painting. There is this idea that this form of invention can heal. This artificial form of understanding can respond to the body. So this really merging between something that's artificial or created, but is contained by this artificial realm or this realm of culture, it actually becomes part of reality, and it has a physical dimension. So, neo-concretism in Brazil, if you look at Alicia Clark later performance, who are really, really important for me to think about art as a therapy, China has a very, very long history of thinking in those terms, of thinking of the aesthetical realm, not as something isolated or autonomous, but something that is actually an intricate part of the body. So that comes back to what I was saying about participation. It's something that participates in your body, that reacts to you, and you react to it. So both of you, the artwork and your body, share a materiality, a physicality. They are there, and this is a shared. It's more than a relationship. It's not only a relationship. It's, again, this form of participation, and they say that because participation allows more than relationship. Relationship has this distance. It has this idea of talk, while participation is a sharedness. It's being in the same body. So for me, when people would walk into that installation, what I fundamentally wanted was that their steps, their movements, the form that they actually participated or touched certain objects would be the installation. That would be the object. That would be the artwork in itself, because they were inventing that themselves. They were part of that themselves, and the artwork would respond, the artwork would change. You know very well that after the first weekend, we saw the artwork from above, and it was completely, deranged and all of that. And for me, it was, it was precisely that, because is this manner by which you create more than an encounter, you create a collective body of shareness.
Were you thinking in therapeutic terms, like the viewers walking through the spiral as a form of like a therapeutic installation?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, though, because therapy for me is always very, very complicated these days, because it has this very positivistic relationship, and especially with psychoanalysis, this thing started to become part of medicine, or part of something very, very serious, or somber, like medicine and all of that. But for me, therapeutic in the sense that it could be integrated to their life in a more intimate level. And that goes back to Chinese cosmology as well, as this shareness of a single fabric of reality. As something that, because of course, like Chinese cosmologies, like Taoism, they are very much organized in this relationship that I find very fascinating and very different from the Western canon between presence and absence. So you have this notion that, the things that are present are codependent with something absent, with something that is originating them, even if it's not there. So therapeutic in the sense that allows you to be participating on something that you no longer are and something that you will be, something that's still to come. And that for me was so much why we put, we try to imagine this, indigenous people that doesn't exist and put them in the leaves together with, indigenous people that are not longer living or tribes that were extinct, because it was very much this idea of, I think, therapy in the sense of abolishing this singularity, the singularity of a body, not to integrate it, to a cycle that's repetitive and oppressive, because tradition is very oppressive, no? Like, if you just integrate people into repetition and you just are a reenactment of a reenactment, it's very, very oppressive. So it was not to close in this, but to allow this body in its shareness to participate, to invent the very much movement of the word.
Yeah, and you're just to give listeners more context, you're referring to on the leaves, the images printed on the leaves came from archives of photographs from the past, and then some from your research, but then there were also AI generated images. So in a related note, I wanted to ask, because while we were in Shanghai, you mentioned that a lot of people kept coming up to you throughout the installation process and then around the days following the opening, asking if the installation was some kind of puzzle or like a game or something like this. I wonder now, 3 months on, if your reflections on that prompt from viewers or visitors to the installation, and whether or not you think of it in terms of a type of puzzle.
Yeah, it's very nice to reflect upon this now, especially because some time has passed, so the installation became a puzzle to me as well, because I'm not so much part of it now. I have some time distance to it, so today I was seeing some pictures of it and videos, and I was like, oh, what did I did here? So it kind of became a puzzle through time. But for me, this idea of puzzle, it was very perplexing, because of course, like, you work so conceptually, and for me, I could go on and on here about like the spiral and the different cosmologies, all the way to Ernest Junger and his idea of spiral, all the way to like relational statics or notion of participation, living, and so on and so on. But when you have an artwork what is so nice and what is why it's really a delight to do it, is because theory kind of meets the word, and people go there and they say what they think. And that creates a materiality or an existence to it. And people would pass by all the time saying it was a puzzle, and I really could not understand. But it goes back to this idea both of, again, a play, so play and participation of game, or something that you can actually be in the making, be in the becoming. But I think even most importantly, puzzle is part of a confusion, no? Or something that's not yet ready, or something that is still in the process of be. And I keep thinking about that throughout all the time I was in Shanghai. Marx has this passage on economic and philosophical manuscripts of 1844, where he talks that objects only have meaning to us as far as our senses go. So, we're kind of trapped, so insofar our senses go. In the same passage, he says that as part of revolution and all this axis, is important to think about the emancipation of the senses. And I think that emancipation of the senses is also emancipation of the body itself, of the private property of the body. Because if you look all theories of private property and so on, it's always about the body. So if you own your body, you have a justification to own other things. And so this idea of puzzle, it's always, as you know, it's this senses that are not yet ready to be expanded, but are on the process of sharing themselves to be part of this collective body that the installation is trying to build, that the installation is trying to become. If it is or if it's not, I don't know. I don't think it's it's my position to say or to do, but you offer, and that's all you can do. This is as far as you can go. But for some people, I hope that when they finish the path and at the end of the spiral, at the end of the puzzle, they find not a conclusion, but a form that they can share, that they can be in participation with, and that they can keep spending as the spiral galaxy keeps spiraling.
Yeah, I mean, also, isn't the etymology of confusion implies a type of sharing?
Yes, merging, no?
Yeah,
Precisely, a form of merging.
Yeah. So Thotti and I are also working now to bring an iteration of his installation to the digital sphere. So we'll publish on cosmos.art, which is the Institute of the Cosmos, within the museum on that web platform, some resources that went into the installation, and then more contextualizing information and some writing about the installation. So those who are interested can see that on cosmos.art. But Thotti, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure working with you over the past few months. Thanks for coming out for this conversation.
Oh, thank you. You are the installation is half yours. You know that. Haley was Haley was the person I was communicating in between 20 hours buses, and I was like, well, why you made me do that? But
let's not get hyperbolic.
Well, it's part of the show.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.